And so today on Technologies Now, the business edge, this is a broker's perspective, and I'm joined by Joe Serafin, owner and principal broker of Serafin Real Estate, a boutique commercial brokerage based in Loudoun County, Virginia. Joe is known for seller-first, data-driven approach, blending predictive analytics, real-time market knowledge, and high-quality marketing to help owners and investors make smarter decisions and maximize pricing. He and his team focus across Northern Virginia, think Loudoun County, Fairfax County, and Prince William County, if I have that correct, Joe.
That's right, yep.
And he's got deep experience in early education centers, industrial, retail, flex, and owner use, I should say, assets. Joe, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, David. I appreciate you having me. Glad to be on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's kind of start from the beginning on your professional career. How did you get into real estate? Is this something that you planned since you were, 8 years old, or, you figured out later that it was a good fit for you?
Definitely not since I was 8. I don't even know what I was doing then. And it's something that I kind of fell into. So I'm born and raised here in the Northern Virginia area, and I went to Virginia Tech, which a lot of the folks from here go to Virginia Tech. Studied business administration, and just probably like every other 18 through 21-year-old, when I graduated, not really sure what I wanted to do. I loved to travel, and I had family that worked in like the hospitality or airline business. And so I thought, okay, you know what, that might be a good route. And so I started working for Hyatt Hotels in downtown DC. And, great, but it was really for the perks of, hey, you could go to the free hotels, down in the Caribbean or, wherever else. Long story short, being in DC with that, it was an 800-room hotel. I graduated in May of 2001, started working for them, and then September 11th hit. And when that happened, our vacancy, we were at 100% occupancy at that hotel, and we went down to a 3%. So everybody was laid off, and I'm the new kid on the block. So of course I'm, laid off indefinitely. I'm like, well, what am I going to do? So still living at home because I just got out of college and needed money. So I started bartending in Fairfax. I'm like, well, if I'm going to do this here, I need to go where there's palm trees. Me and a couple of buddies packed up, went down to South Beach, no job yet, not even a place to stay. And we were down there. That lifestyle can't really be sustained. After about a year, got out of that. Kind of, you're a little bit older now, so a little bit more mature. Got, the stuff out of my system, as they say. I'd always looked up, my uncle had always done really well in like the Northern Virginia area, nice house and all of that. And he was an attorney. So I thought, you know what, let me try law school. Went to law school for 6 months. Couldn't stand it. So at that time, my dad, it was in real estate as well. And I found my uncle had done really well, not from his law degree, but really from real estate. I'm like, okay, this might be a good path. So that was 2005 when I first got licensed. And it really was to kind of follow in the footsteps, kind of help my dad out, look at, what my uncle was doing from an investment standpoint and in that nature. And that is really the first kind of foot in the door to real estate then.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what was that, residential at that point, or was that commercial?
Well, that started out residential. I was with Weicker, and that lasted. It was really there to help my dad. He was building homes essentially, so kind of helping find lots to build, help negotiate those. And there's smaller projects around Fairfax City that I was helping him with. But at the same time, also learning from my uncle who owned shopping centers or had an equity piece in shopping centers. So even though I was hanging my license with the residential firm for the most part, I was doing things outside of that. And that was around 2006 or so, maybe 2007. The market starts to change, obviously. Right. So my dad's now, he's getting out of the business just because we see the storm coming. And I was approached by a company that does a lot of multifamily representation, so on the commercial side. And it seemed like a good fit. I had heard about, some potentials with income and who you're working with and so forth. So I joined them. And that at the time I was got lucky enough to fall into working with some pretty big names, the Carlyle Group, for example, JBG, and these developers or these asset holders of large multifamily buildings that needed to liquidate. Now their analytics were unbelievable. They could forecast out. So they got very motivated in selling off these assets, and me coming in and a lot of energy and kind of a workhorse or whatnot, and I worked very hard. I was getting the job done for them. And funny enough, I bring up the Carlisle Group, but they were a great client of ours. I ended up getting licensed in 6 different states, from Florida, New Jersey, Connecticut, DC, Maryland, Virginia, and really doing a lot of projects with them. And, it had been a while, but I just reconnected actually with the guy who I worked very closely with at the Carlisle Group last week. It's been 10 years or so since we've done any business together, but obviously when you do that much, you establish relationships, with these people, and they are true friends. So anyways, we're getting together for a lunch coming up next month. No business talk probably, but if they want, of course I welcome it, but yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
It keeps the door open to business talk always, right? I mean,
that's right. That's right.
how it works.
Yeah. And then, so I was working that realm, the multifamily, doing a lot of things in different states. And then in about 2017, maybe 18, as kids come along, and we're living out here in Loudoun County now at the time. I wanted to be more at home, and so I actually approached my previous firm about starting a branch here. They're more urban in the inner Beltway area, DC. Not really much interest, so I launched my own platform and my own brokerage, and that started in February of 2019. Actually, we're doing this at a great time because tomorrow is our 7-year anniversary since Serafin Real Estate was launched.
Excellent. Congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That is.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say that. No, that is awesome. Most people don't make it through the first couple of years, but you had like kind of a perfect path. It sounds like, you had the residential piece of it that you were starting with, but you really didn't do the residential components. You got introduced in a very, I don't know what call it an easy way, but just a natural path into commercial.
Right. Yeah.
What do you like? What do you like about commercial brokerage?
So commercial brokerage, I would say, versus the residential brokerage, is you're dealing with different mindsets, different people. It's very numbers based. It's all in both businesses. It's very much a relationship business, right? But instead of the homeowner who is looking for their perfect home with the bedrooms and everything else, you're looking at the businesses and where the numbers work, or the investor. And so to analyze a property, my mind works much better with numbers, and to be able to break down that asset on returns, to really dive deep into what are the risks, the red flags, or how to position that property in the best light, is really the attraction to commercial real estate, because you could still get into the emotional aspect of it. I mean, we're humans, right? And everybody's got emotions on why they buy, why they sell. But to rationalize it more is really what commercial real estate is all about. And if you could maybe find some hidden cost benefits or hidden investment potential or value add, you're really doing your service to your client at that point, which is exciting, right? I mean, I'll give you a story. I love, kind of sharing stories.
Yes, please do.
This is a recent one. We had a client had contacted us, and he happened to be a plastic surgeon out of New Jersey. And a little tangent on that, he was the surgeon that sewed Evander Holyfield's ear back on when Mike Tyson bit it off years ago. So he called us, and he had bought a huge industrial property right near us, about 30 minutes away from Leesburg, 70,000 square foot industrial property that he was going to use as a marijuana distribution and manufacturing plant. And also maybe he owned a yacht business, maybe to store boats or something like that. Anyways, he bought this place sight unseen. Never saw the property, never stepped foot in it. And this was in 2022 for about $7.9 million. And that was because they weren't going to allow him to do what he wanted to do up in New Jersey, this marijuana plant. So he called us, he found us online. We've got a great SEO guy, and called us, and we listed this property for him. We just closed on this property for $14 million, almost doubling what he had initially paid for it, without him ever setting foot in the property. I'm in the wrong business. I brokered it for him, hey, we're fine with that. But, kind of put some perspective on it, why I love commercial. Well, you can't say no to those numbers right there. So.
Oh my gosh, that's a wonderful story. What was
Yeah.
the holding period? How long did he have this property?
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah, 3 years. And it's not,
insane.
yeah, and not doubling in the sense we're talking a couple $100,000, doubling in the sense of, you know, almost, well, 6.1 million, I think it was over, yeah, escalated 6.1. So essentially doubled his money almost, yeah, in a 3 year time frame.
So looking back, Joe, could you have forecasted that appreciation? Sounds impossible to me, but
No, no. And you know what? We'll do a plug. We'll say it was really good marketing, finding the right buyer.
well, it's always that. But if the market will bear it, I mean, that's a different story, right?
Yeah, yeah. And it's always interesting, like there's different asset classes with commercial. Multifamily's always done well. It's always been the one that's, everybody's interested in, from your small time investor picking up 2, 3, 4 units, 5 unit buildings to, your institutional 300, 400 unit apartment complexes. Now industrial is a very hot asset. It's starting to stabilize a little bit, but like your distribution centers, Amazon, FedEx, where all these places are, and you're seeing crazy price appreciation. The data centers here, we're in Data Center Alley, right?
Yes, we
Ashburn.
are.
They have the land for industrial out in Ashburn. To give you perspective, is 6 million an acre for industrial land because of the data centers. The data centers go in and they don't buy just 1 3 acre one. They're buying 50 acre, 100 acre tracts at that price point. There's no competition for them, and it's not because it's not a real estate play for them. It's a business play. They have to have that infrastructure. You have the lines out here, the fiber lines. So you have to have that infrastructure. It doesn't matter what the cost of the real estate is. They're going to pay it because they have to to support their businesses. So you have the big names, Google, Amazon, you name it. They're all scattered around with the data centers out here. And what that's done is that has appreciated the industrial market even more so around here. Because there's just very, very limited inventory. Inventory for industrial is 1.6% in Loudoun County. And it's hard to find places to build because you're paying a premium for the land.
Wow. Yeah. So if you could have predicted that and gone back, 10 years, or you have to go back farther to have thought of, forecasting where the data centers were going to go in. If you could have done that, because that's the greatest data center density, I think, anywhere
Yep, in the
even,
world.
perhaps. I know it is in the States.
Yep.
So
In the world, yeah, 70% of the world's internet flows through Ashburn, Virginia.
that is, so someone's done really well on selling their land, obviously, at some point here.
That's
Um,
right. That's right.
good,
Yeah.
good for them. Good for them. How's that? Are other companies that are coming in that have, industrial needs, if they can possibly afford it, obviously a smaller location, do any come in that have the same sort of energy needs that a data center does? I know probably nothing compares to it, but how does that affect things?
That's a really, really great question, actually, because it makes it much harder for them. Now, the data centers there's not a lot of overhead with the data centers. You could have a 200,000 square foot building and there's, a handful of people that actually work there.
Mm-hmm.
So, that is the big question. How does that attract the other businesses? Well, the data centers, when they're being built, they need all of the drilling companies, the other industrial needs to actually construct these buildings. So the data centers, again, are not looking at smaller tracts of land. So they're looking at these 50 acre tracts or larger. So the other industrial buildings or the other flex buildings are where these other tenants are going to support the data center. So it does attract those other businesses to the area because of what the need of the data center is. In addition to that, the office market or the IT out here, IT is a huge business out here. There's a lot of startups, entrepreneurs, Fortune 500 companies that have their headquarters around here that are IT companies because we're better to be than close to where the mecca of the data center is, right? So
Yeah, that's in the center of the world, basically.
that's
The
right.
closer you are, the faster it is, and the more access you have, perhaps.
Right.
That's fascinating. So that's
You
changing
know,
landscape there for
I'll give a big shout out to the president of the Loudoun Economic Development, and I just recently saw an article on this. But I'm close with him, and he was, I don't want to say the sole one responsible for bringing the data centers to Loudoun, but he saw that opportunity out here, knowing where how the infrastructure is to support it. Where, I mean, he flew out to Silicon Valley and basically door knocked on Google's front door, if you want to say that, and said, "Hey, this is what we've got." 20 years ago, this is what we've got: the land, the lines, the energy, water supply, things like that. And we're going to throw you some or some incentives, some capital incentives with this too. Come on over. And it opened the floodgates on it. And there's benefits to everybody in the county. I happen to live in Loudoun County, and our taxes have not skyrocketed. The tax basis that the data centers pay because of these huge buildings is quite substantial. That it keeps our taxes reasonable.
That's an awesome benefit, because that was a question I was going to have. Did that raise the tax rates across the board? You're saying no, the roads are already paid for because of the data centers and simply the size. Even with the tax breaks they're getting, it has to be still substantial. I mean,
yep. So what it's actually That's right. And what it's actually done is lowered. If you look back 20 years ago, and yes, taxes were less from an absolute value for everybody, but the tax rate was actually much higher. I don't remember the exact figure, but I think double. And so the tax rate is actually lower now than what it was. But property, because of the appreciation from residential to commercial, has gone up so much. Everybody, all the taxes well, actually, the tax rate's lower. It's just, the property values gained so much. And that's why, it's important to, when you're in commercial real estate, to study, really be specific on certain asset classes, because you can't say the commercial market's doing great anywhere. Or, yep, how's commercial real estate? Oh, it's good. It's great. Talk to the office broker who there's over 20% vacancy rate in Class B office. Well, it's not going so great maybe there. It's starting to come back now, but 2 years ago, not good, right?
Very painful, yes.
Much different than what the data center broker is going to tell you. How's the market? Oh, it's unbelievable. Yes.
Right. Yeah. The best time ever in my life, right?
Right, exactly. Oh, yeah. And those guys are probably all retired now,
So, right. Do a few deals and you're like, I'm going to the beach.
Yeah, I'm buying the island, right? Yeah,
that's right. The island. Yeah. No, that's exceptional.
Yep.
So what is your approach when you first meet a prospective client? Someone has some interest, they have a need. Do you have a systematic approach? Is there a checklist, or kind of how do you prepare them for the process, or is that how it works at all?
No, that's a great question. Again, so we are middle market. We're boutique, and that's done purposely. I like to be in the deals personally for the most part. So we're really focused on that $5 to $50 million per transaction range. We're not competing with the larger firms, the CBREs, the Marcus and Millichaps of the world. What we have to our advantage is the geographic knowledge and expertise. We are now solely and only focused in Northern Virginia. That's it. We don't touch Maryland. We don't touch DC. When I started SRE, it was purposely done to be geographic. This is where we were going to concentrate. In Loudoun County, there's 5,682 commercial properties. In Fairfax, there's 11,402, I think. That's enough, just that. And then Prince William County, if you have that as well, to make a very good living. And what it allows you to do is become an expert when you really drill down. So we just got a call the other day from somebody, pretty large assignment, $14-15 million assignment. He's like, look, I had 3 check boxes that I wanted to see, and this is the reason why I'm not going with one of the bigger firms. I wanted somebody local that knew the local market. Check. I wanted somebody where I know I'm going to get the attention and it's not just going to be lost in the wind. It's more boutique. Check. And then I can't remember what his other third, but we checked the box. So we're getting that assignment because of that. So when somebody calls in, we are selective on who we take on as well. We can't take on everybody. It has to fall, one, in our geographic parameter. Usually it's sellers and landlords that we're working with. Just because I've always been on the listing side of things, marketing the properties. You could handle a lot more listing inventory than you can on a buyer rep or tenant rep type side. And also, our perfect client is one that commercial real estate is their business. They transact maybe, a property every 2 to 3 years. They have a portfolio of 5 or more properties, equaling, 20 million or more. That's really our ideal kind of client. And so the process is, if they call in and they kind of check our boxes, I have a team behind me. And if it's a property that maybe is in Western Loudoun, well, Grant Wetmore is probably going to run that for us. He's with the team and he knows that area like the back of his hand. So even though the company has Northern Virginia, the brokers with inside this company have geographic expertise. So we know who's going to take the primary lead on it. And then the process goes to really understanding the property. If it's a investment sale, understanding, not just what the rent is, but are there expenses? What are the escalations? What are any pass-throughs? How is it going to affect the buyer when they buy that property for X amount? When the tax assessment only says it's assessed at 2, they're buying it for 10, it's probably going to get reassessed. Yeah. So what happens to that the buyer's net? Well, it depends on how the leases are structured. A lot of those leases are structured where the tenant's responsible for those taxes. And if there's multiple tenants in a property where they're responsible for the tax increase, then it's divided up and it's really not that significant of a jump, even for the tenants. So it's not like it's going to break their bank or really affect their bottom line all too much either. So that's what I mean. There's a lot of these intricacies in there that we have to discover, because we have to be very knowledgeable about the product that we're selling. We have to believe in it. We have to stand by the price. So we do an evaluation, which is very thorough, a broker opinion of value. There's no charge to that. It's complimentary as long as, we believe that this person's likely to sell with us. And it could be a 40 to 50 page report that studies the market, overall, the industry, and then diving down to even more specific, like how many years are left on the lease and, all that fact. We'll give our pricing recommendation from a aggressive to mid-range to a conservative price point. And ultimately it's the seller on, what their specific need is going to be on how we price it.
Okay. That makes sense. And the fact that you are ultra local, that's definitely a huge value in that, because you get the large brokerage and someone may know the area, but if they don't live there, work there, do regular deals in that range of price, then they're really not going to know it.
That's right. Yeah. The 20 years ago, the information was a lot harder to get. Nowadays, that information on any market, you could find it. It's on CoStar, it's on Crexi, it's on, public database sites. It's a lot easier to get that knowledge, but that is not always as thorough, not always as accurate as boots on the ground or working the deal, right? Another kind of example, one of the industries that we concentrate a lot in is the early education centers. Think of KinderCare, Primrose, Goddard schools, things like that, for profit. And out in the Midwest, the rental rates on those is much different. So if we're working with a group or a broker that's coming, let's say, from the Midwest, and they're telling us, the price for square foot for early education centers is usually $25, $20 a square foot. Well, not here. And I'm going to tell you exactly, it's $39.89 a square foot, in this 2052 zip code in Loudoun County, because tuition rates and household incomes are $220,000 in a 3-mile radius. Means the tuition rates are probably going to be about double what they are in that Midwest area. The rental rates reflect that. That's, just an example of that local kind of expertise you're talking about.
No, that's absolutely perfect, because no one would know that. So do you have a lot of franchisees, franchisors working together, obviously, coming into the market for this example?
We do. Now, if we use the childcare industry as an example on why, keeping track of data and all that, prior to COVID, there was 192 licensed commercial early education centers in Loudoun County. In 2023, so post-COVID, it dropped down, but not significant, 171. And that's natural, sometimes, ebbs and flows. About a month ago, looking into this, there was 118. And that's a significant drop. That's a 41% drop. And why is that, right? You had a lot of these mom and pop places that, are just retiring, they're done. You had a lot of consolidations on that industry, but there's so little now. Now there's a need. So you're working with the franchisees that come Yeah, absolutely. Because now that demand is still there, especially as people go back to office. Over 80% of the parents both work. So they want to have kids and a nice place to send their kids. So they look for childcare. Some of these places, ones that do well, are the ones that have a great facility, a great piece of real estate. It's upgraded. It offers auxiliary things like maybe dance, soccer, some other language or whatever within there. They're willing to pay. Those are the ones that are 100% full. The
Probably a
ones
wait
that
list.
are,
Yeah.
yeah, wait list, right? Yeah. So that is bringing more in now because they thought there was a surplus. Well, they dropped down too far. Now there's more of the demand, and there's not enough supply to meet that demand.
That's really interesting. Is there anything that's done to try to attract those, or is that attract those childcare centers, or is that more a function of demand from real estate growth, or how does that work?
Yeah, yeah. So it's the attraction is like we do a lot of content pieces. We do a lot of deep market dives and specialty niches like this early education. And of course, we study the market. We see who's coming into the area, who's growing, and we have made it a point to make relationships with them. So
Yes.
we get a property, we've got the top 10 that we're going to call. We know, for example, the 170 something contacts of the top 30 early education companies across the United States and who to call and who's in the right position right now that we can reach out. So we get a new place that just maybe went vacant. It's for sale or lease. We're listing it. Well, we're calling those top 30 companies, especially the ones that maybe don't have a location right there. Usually it's like a 3-mile radius that they have to, stay out of somebody else's franchise territory or something like that. Sometimes it's 7 miles. So if there's not a Primrose there, let's say, and we know Primrose has been actively looking, well, we're calling our person over at Primrose to bring them in and take a look at it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
So, and that's where the database comes in handy. And again, the database is not just, hey, we have 78,000 contacts. Great. Well, no, we have 78,000 contacts, but out of those, 500 are the active early education investors, owner users, franchises that we could reach out to on that particular property.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
How do you manage that size of a database? I mean, tell me about technology company. This is a good transition to.
Yeah.
Tell us about what tech you guys use. You
Okay.
don't have to be specific. Just how do you use it and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I could be specific or not. So I love tech. That's why I was really excited for this because we use a specifically built for commercial real estate currently, so build out, and that acts as our CRM, our ERP, and our listing platform, how we manage even reporting and things like that as well. We also have a proprietary database that we've made with the help of custom GPTs, Gemini Gems, GenSpark, Manus, Claude. We are, working on coding something custom right now for us, but what that's helped us do is give us predictive analytics. So as long as the data is good, right? So I'm a huge fan of Notebook LM because there's no hallucinations, right? So let's go back to the childcare just because it's a good representation. When we first got into this, we fell backwards into it. It's not something we went after. A client of ours, I had no idea, but owned a bunch of these. We helped them out and sold some for top dollar. Well, that kind of gave us like, nobody else is doing this niche. Well, we need to find out, because sometimes these are confidential properties, how to reach all of these ones in this. How do you find it? Well, in order to be a child care center, you have to get a license with the state, and they have to keep that license, and the address is public of that center. Well, if we cross-reference it with some systems that we use, now we can find ownership information.
Right.
So now we have the LLCs. Well, now we can actually pierce the LLCs and find owner contact information. So now we use AI to help us with those databases to track it so it's updated. So now it updates within itself. So now we're able to go back 20 years historically and see transaction volume among early education centers, when they're trading, why they're trading, and spikes, valleys. That's why, the 118 that I mentioned, it was why. Why was that drop? And I could go into a lot of detail on it, but the detail is, it's these centers, they're from a higher level are all consolidating under a certain brand now. There was one that got in trouble. So they had, plenty. So it's keeping up to date with that. And the use of AI and all that is really the backbone, or no, I shouldn't say backbone. It's being leveraged to help us predict all of this data and organize all of this data that we have. It's but right now, it's I love trying to stay within one system and keep it organized. We use Google Workspace as well, business account with that, but build out in like the CRM and the listing platform and the marketing all kind of filter through that as of right now.
That is fascinating. You wouldn't have had these tools even how many years ago? A couple years ago, when
Yeah,
that'd be really available to you. And now you're ahead of most. I will tell you that. At least independent companies. So the big guys seem to think they have good machines that take care of this, but you add that with some boots on the ground where you can realize, hey, this is really how this fits. Where the data may not point there directly. I would think. I don't know.
yeah,
I guess I'm poking into your world there, but no,
yeah.
that's an amazing application.
That's awesome. Well, thank you. Yeah, because especially here in for you, like I love to hear that we are on top of it because there's so much out there. It's changing every day, and I'm getting the update emails on a daily basis, like Rundown AI or whatever, to see like what else is out there. And I try to play around with all these tools. I do find myself sometimes like, oh, I should be making the call to negotiate this deal. But hold on, let me see what Manus just came out with, and can I streamline this product? And there's still a lot, at least in the commercial world's always been 10 years behind. It seems the residential world in terms of technology. The gap is closing a little bit
Yeah,
right
yeah,
now, but that was the opportunity when I saw even starting the company. So I saw, a $10 million property getting marketed on a commercial, and it's like my 11-year-old daughter could put something better together than this package, right? But then that $500,000 home is beautiful
totally right.
packaging,
Yeah,
beautiful marketing, nice property website on their company page. Like, well, let me bring this to commercial. It should be, right?
should be
So
absolutely.
that gave us a ledge. AI now is helping those that weren't into it get better at promoting properties and things like that. But still, I do think, and that's why I don't mind getting on things like this to share that. It keeps me sharp. As long as I'm a couple steps ahead, I'll share whatever. I'm very transparent, but I will always have a secret in my back pocket. I hope.
Yes,
Yeah,
always use your advantage, use your business edge for sure.
yeah, yeah,
Very, very important. And
yeah.
then your award winner. I don't know which way to point right now. I'm trying to think
Oh,
of how it's going to show up
yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Tell
yeah,
us about that, Joe. Brag about
yeah.
yourself a little bit.
So those are the best allowed. And so we've won. There's actually another fourth one that should be up there. Just haven't done it, but it's the best allowed for the commercial brokerage firm for any. There's 158 commercial brokerages based in Loudoun County, and we've won number one the last 4 years. We're going for number 5 this year. And we're additionally top sales volume for any commercial brokerage in Loudoun County. Goals, love to be number one in all of Northern Virginia. You do have to compete, with some bigger names, at
Oh
that
yes.
point. But I think it's important always to have a goal in mind. So we're going for the 5th. So I could send the link to all your to vote.
I like it. I'm not sure I can vote, but
Yeah,
thanks for the
yeah.
5 feet there on your. Yes,
Right, right, right. Well, thank you.
that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Let's switch gears real quick here and tell us about Joe when he's not being the real estate person or geeking out on AI tech.
Yeah, definitely a family person. I am married to my lovely wife, Trista. We have 3 kids. One's in college right now, freshman year. In fact, he called me right before this, and then I told him I was coming on, so we'll catch up later. And then an 11-year-old and then a 6-year-old. I love just spending time, with them. I mean, sometimes it's a crazy household. We get a lot of snow days out here, and sometimes that could be a lot, if you're, especially if you're working from home or something.
Right.
But, I love the seasons around Northern Virginia, although I didn't, kind of getting over this snow part right now and
Oh
ready for the
yeah,
warm weather.
unusual season. Yes.
I try to play golf, and I say try because I think we all actually just try.
That's fair.
But get out probably not as much as I want. I was, but not quite as much right now. And then just I'm always just trying to be there for family, for friends, for help, things of that nature. But this business can consume you as well. So trying to always find that balance is tough, but achievable.
Yes, it is. It is definitely a balance we try to achieve that are out there. And then before we wrap up, what advice do you give to someone coming into real estate or coming into their, starting their own company, or maybe even advice you'd give a younger Joe based on where you're at now?
Yeah. Well, the specific advice in real estate is really niche down on a geography and niche down on a product type. Become the specialist, become the expert, pick 1,000 properties and become the expert on it. That's really, I think, don't spread out too fast and too broad. So what do they say? An inch wide, a mile deep, not a mile deep and an inch, whatever that opposite saying is to that, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
niche. And then, to starting a business, at the time, I didn't really give it much thought. It's like, okay, I'm doing this. I guess I should have been more fearful or something like that. I had a good support system with my wife and all, but I would say just do it. If you've got a good idea or if you've got an idea, run with it. Run with it. It doesn't have to be 100%. Just take that, every action step, every domino will fall, and just make that first domino fall, and then the next one, and then the next one, and the next one. You don't have to do it all at one time, just step by step.
Step by step. I love it.
Yep. Yep. Step by step, a little progress every day.
That's great advice.
Yep.
Appreciate that, Joe. Well,
Yeah.
this was
Thank you.
excellent. Thank you for sharing your story. We definitely appreciate that. And talking about your technology as well. Definitely
Yep.
appreciate it. And for those who want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to reach you, Joe?
So best way is, you can always go to our website, which is serafinre.com. You could actually call it's our main office line, 703-261-4809. Email info@serafinre.com. And
Excellent.
thank you very much for having me, David. This is great. Really respect what you all are doing, and thanks so much.
You are very welcome. And thanks for everyone who joined us today to take a look at this video with Technologies Now, the Business Edge. And this was another broker's perspective. Thanks again, Joe.
Thank you. Appreciate it.